Consider yourself lucky.
Greetings and salutations, guys. Eric here with my review of CUCKOO. This is a new horror/thriller from German director Tillman Singer, who also wrote the script. And it takes place in Germany. It stars Hunter Schafer as an American girl, Gretchen, who is sent to live with her father, stepmom, and younger half-sister in the German Alps, where her parents are working on a project to develop a new hotel with a hotel owner played by Dan Stevens. He is named Herr Koenig, and he gives Gretchen a job at his hotel working at the front desk, but he's definitely weird from the get-go, and soon Gretchen is starting to notice a lot of strange things around this hotel, creepy things going on at night, and starting to investigate what exactly this is that is happening and why people seem to be behaving so strangely around her. I had not seen anything from Tillman Singer before, but I really enjoyed this movie. And I think for me, it's all about tone and the feel of it, because story-wise, there's some places where CUCKOO, I don't want to say falls apart, but it's got some issues at the end where I wish things were a little tighter. But the weird, wacky, sort of strange vibe of this movie is definitely one that I was vibing with. And I think other people will too. I think this is definitely a cult movie in the making. Some people will just say, this is too weird for me. I do not like what this movie is doing and its strangeness. I think there's a great sense of humor to it, though, that really kind of helps pull you in from the get-go. And it's also anchored by two great lead performances. Hunter Schafer is great as Gretchen. This is a character that when you meet her, she's very much sort of a flippant, defensive teen. She's got a lot of attitude. She's kind of crappy to her half-sister, who's just this little girl trying to be friendly with her. But we definitely get to see the vulnerability there, what's going on with her as a character, and I think Hunter Schafer is great showing that, and the strength within her, how she kind of has to really fight back and stand her ground against some pretty intense and insane things happening both around her and to her directly. And this is visually reflected in a really evocative way by the fact that she is just looking so physically beat up as the movie progresses, with her head bandage and with her arm in a sling. And I think it really charts her journey really well, but also shows you just her inner strength, that she's going to persevere and continue fighting on, even with all this happening to her that is now being reflected outward for everyone to see. And then this is a great year for Dan Stevens, who I've mentioned before, huge fan of. The Guest, one of my all-time favorite movies. But after Godzilla X Kong and Abigail, another big wild performance from him, kind of a character actor in a leading man's body here with Dan Stevens. And I think this year we're really getting to see that as he's playing these very extreme, kind of heightened characters, and I think having such a great time in each of them. He's doing a German accent here, which maybe isn't the best German accent in the world, but what a fun performance. Just the way this character operates, the weirdness of him. I keep saying that word, but it fits for this movie. Also, how he's kind of messing with Gretchen. Again, I think that's where the sense of humor really helps you, and a lot of the good laughs here. Even just the way he says her name, and she kind of tries to correct him, that he's not pronouncing it right, and he keeps saying it, and you kind of get the idea that he's just trying to get under her skin. It's a really great dynamic between the two of them, the push and pull. I was disappointed to see that the third billed person in the trailer, next to Hunter Schafer and Dan Stevens, Jessica Henwick, doesn't have a really great part. I really like Henwick. I've been a big fan of hers. I thought she was so great as Colleen Wing on some Marvel shows that weren't always as good as she was in them. But there's not a lot to this character. She plays Gretchen's stepmother, and I kept expecting something bigger to happen with her. A big scene for her, something to give Henwick a big spotlight. She doesn't really get that, which is unfortunate. But there are other actors who do get more to do, and I think are great in those roles. Most notably, I would say, is the character Henry, played by Jan Bluthart. He is a detective who kind of comes into the story. He's got some information for Gretchen. They start working together. He's really good, kind of brings his own sort of manic energy to the proceedings. And then there is a woman, character-wise, we only know her as the Hooded Woman. You've glimpsed her in the trailers. She's played by Callan Morrow, and she's an excellent, just very unsettling presence in this movie. The way that this movie kind of builds up its creepiness and its tension, it's not a sort of scare-a-minute movie, but when it wants to be frightening and intense, I think it's very effective. There's some scenes where Gretchen is sort of running for her life or bike riding for her life. That moment that's also in the trailer where the shadowy figure kind of comes up behind her, creepy as hell. There's other ways the movie plays with shadows that I think are very effective. And, you know, it's funny watching this movie. I definitely got a Twin Peaksy vibe from it. And I know it's kind of an easy thing to say, oh, this movie's weird. It must be Lynchian or Twin Peaksian. But I actually think watching this, I felt like, did Tillman Singer watch Twin Peaks growing up? I bet he did. There's just something about a lot of the imagery in the movie, not just the fact that it's kind of outdoors in sort of a rustic area, but there's some specific shots that definitely reminded me of Twin Peaks. And even the way the hooded woman works and the fact that there's something a little goofy about her, but also very unsettling and freaky. The more the movie focuses on that character and the more you see of her. And it kind of weaves and bobs. I really like something that Twin Peaks did so well, where it's like, oh, that's funny, that's a little silly, and then you're like, oh my god, that's absolutely terrifying. And I think this movie manages to do that a lot. The third act is interesting because it started to lose me, and then it kind of got me back. There are some big reveals in the third act, and if I tried to say them all to you, I won't, no spoilers, but if I tried to say them all to you, it would sound like a lot of nonsense. When you start to piece it together, it makes a certain amount of sense, but it's definitely going big, going sort of wild. And I appreciate that about the movie. I think there are some plot holes. As much as it's operating at a heightened level, there are still some things where I think they could have explained things a little better. Some connective tissue I felt was missing. But overall, I think it works under the circumstances. It sets in place. This is one of those movies that purposely kind of takes place in its own space and time. I mean, they're using modern cell phones, and yet the TV sets and their answering machines that characters use are clearly 20, 25 years old. So it feels like it's this ethereal thing from the get-go. So when the big reveals happen in that third act, I thought, okay, sure, I can go with this. And the sort of audacious way it mixes together a lot of different elements, part horror, part thriller, part action movie. There's some pretty decent amount of gunplay in this movie. It doesn't get to John Woo levels, but it feels like it could. And I think that's kind of a fun, exciting thing about it. The music's great. Both the score and the songs that are used. And the movie has excellent sound design. Sound is crucial here. There is a lot of screaming and unsettling noises. Yeah, so I really love the aesthetics of the movie and the feel of it. And I just thought, this is cool. Like, this is getting the energy it's going for. This sort of heightened, fun, chaotic, cool energy I think it is capturing. Won't be everyone's cup of tea, but I think that there is a lot of us who it will kind of be operating at our level and be like, okay, yeah, I can go with this. I can have fun with this. I do think the third act could have maybe elevated things a little more, and yet I still really appreciate it. When it cut to credits, I still thought, okay, there's a couple characters I would have liked to have seen again that I kind of felt were a little bit dangling plot threads, but overall, what I just saw, highly entertaining. And what more can you ask for from a movie? I mean, you can ask for a couple other things, but highly entertaining is pretty damn good. So yeah, I really enjoyed CUCKOO. This has been a good year for Neon with horror movies, Immaculate, and then obviously Longlegs, massive hit for them. I don't think this has the mainstream appeal of that, but I think it's another one that will have an appreciative audience going forward. I do want to mention one other thing about Immaculate, though, which is that there are some themes in this movie about sort of women's autonomy and men kind of trying to control women's bodies that has been pretty big in horror movies this year. Immaculate being one of them, The First Omen being another. I don't think this one sort of digs in that deep on it. It's a little more surface level. But I still think that there is something there, there is definitely some meaning behind what's going on and some parallels. There's a reason that these themes are popping up in modern movies. Maybe there's some topicality that's been affecting that. And I think that does resonate here, not as much as in those films I mentioned, but it still has some power to it, certainly. I've not seen Tillman Singer's previous film, but CUCKOO made me want to see what he does next and go back and watch his previous work, because I think he shows a very strong eye and very confident filmmaker. And yeah, I really liked sort of the world he created here, the energy of it, the sense of humor, the macabre nature of it all mixing together, I think makes for a very cool collection. So those are my thoughts on CUCKOO, which opens this weekend, August 9th. That's it for now, guys. If you could like and subscribe if you haven't, that would be wonderful. And I'll be back with more. Take care.